Thanks for this. I really appreciate it.
No doubt. No, I watched a couple. I was watching the girl from India that you
Yeah,
had, and I was fascinated to know that India is broken into states like the United States. Like when you
right.
show the map and everything, I was like, oh, that's that's interesting.
That
It's
is.
it's such a you live on the other end of the world, but it's similar to how we live over here, and
That's right.
again, it shows us how small this world really is.
Welcome everybody to PhlattLine. I'm your host, Flat McLean. Today we have Jon Solomon, and we're going to get to know who is Jon Solomon. So, Jon, you're coming from Maine. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do, how you got to where you are in life now, and what's going on with you right now?
Yes. Well, my name's Jon Solomon. I live in Houlton, Maine. I'm originally from Boston, Massachusetts. Came to Maine in 1998. Went to the University of Maine on a scholarship to play football. During my time there, I met my kid's mother. We got married, had a couple kids. One's in college now, one's a senior in high school. And from then on, life took me to a small town that I lived in called Bucksport for about 15 years before moving to Houlton 6 years ago. And I'm currently the athletic director at our local high school and head football coach.
Wow. Sounds like big dreams.
Yes.
So it sounds like you're a lot involved in football, or at least in athletics. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes, as a full-time AD here, I've covered from grades 6 to 12. I think I counted it up the other day. We offer over 25 student-related activities on the sports side
That's
that
awesome.
I'm in charge of.
What would you say is your favorite activity or sport that you're involved in?
Oh, that I'm involved in. I think my favorite activities are unified basketball team that we just
Okay.
started here. So that to me is the best sporting event that we can offer. It brings the student body, the town, communities together, and it's for a great cause. And watching our Special Olympic athletes be able to get out there and get cheered on by their classmates, their schools, it's unbelievable.
That's awesome. What got you into playing? I wanna go backwards a little bit because you said you got a scholarship to play football. You said,
Yes.
was that at the University of Maine?
Yes.
Okay. If you don't mind, just kind of hit on that a little bit. What got you into doing football, and what position did you play? Why did you go into football?
Well, my friends were a year ahead of me in high school, and they did football their freshman year. And then when they were sophomores, they would tell me how much fun it was. So I went out for football my freshman year at the school that I went to in Massachusetts, and sort of fell in love with the game. I was an offensive defensive lineman in high school. When I went to Maine, I was a defensive tackle uh, there, but just fell in love with the game and the brotherhood that came with being part of the team. And even my time in college, some of my best friends in life are my teammates that I went to school with at Maine. So, you know, and getting to travel. When I got to college, I got to go to different states, see different schools and stuff like that. And so, for me, the love of the game was just more of the opportunity that was given to me to see different things. And, it was sort of a sport that helped me as a big kid to have confidence in myself and know that I was sort of good at something. It felt good about for my self-esteem to be good at something or be like cool, I would say, when I was younger.
Sure. Did you have any dreams of going further, or were you just going to stay at the college level?
Oh, of course, I had dreams of wanting to go to the NFL and, be a big star. Or, when I was in high school, Jerry Maguire had just come out. So, being a sports agent was also like one of my dreams. But then I got to college and realized that the business major wasn't something for me, and I switched over to communications at that point in time.
Okay. And then you met your family essentially.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess you grew it, you developed it, and now they're growing older and leaving you.
Yes. Yep. So, probably looking the next 6 months or so to be an empty nester. Well, both my kids will be in college. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Is that a new experience for you, huh?
Yeah, it will be. It will take some time to get used to, but as they're getting older, they're starting to forge their own path in life. So I'm proud of them and seeing the direction that they're going. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
So tell me just a little bit more about your experiences in wanting to stay in Maine. Is the children and family the reasons, or what do
Yeah,
you think?
my children was the reason why I wanted to stay in Maine. I went through a divorce. Those things happen. Their mother and we got together when we were young. It didn't work out, but I felt like as a father, I needed to still be around, and that's what kept me in Maine, was to be closer to them and be around them and be able to be involved with their life and them getting to know who their dad was or is.
Yeah, or is that makes sense. Has Do you feel that you have had an impact or an influence on their lives since you stayed around?
I feel like I do have an impact on their life. You know, from talking with my daughter, she has a lot of confidence in herself and her ability to try to branch out and do some different things, and being a little bit more, self-aware about who she is as a person. And I think from our conversation, a lot of that comes from me being around and being able to not so much push her, but just show her that, you can do these things. Don't doubt yourself. You've got the ability to do it. And then, my son, he's more of, he'll sit back and observe and listen. And, I've noticed with some of our conversations that we've had that he will take it in and then he will implement into some of the things that he's doing in his life.
Wow. Two different types.
Yes. The beauty of having kids is that they're not going to be carbon copies of each other. One's going to go down the road to the right, the other one's going to go down the road to the left. And sometimes, you try to get them to the center, but they all are going to find their own path. And, it's my job just to sort of guide them and just give them the guidance that they need so they can find their way.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing just a little bit about yourself and your family and kind of your experiences. If you consider yourself right now and all of the activities and things that you've been involved with, family, school, sports, even current as an athletic director, and massive influence over the community that you have right now, it sounds like, would you consider yourself successful at this point in time?
That's a tough question to ask. Do I consider myself successful? Yes. But do I consider myself as being where I want to be as far as success level? No. And I say that because I feel like if you tend to get to a point where you're satisfied, you sort of become lazy and stop being motivated to do things. As far as the success piece, I look at the fact that being a single father for, almost a decade and having to raise two kids and, going back and finishing up my degree and, working multiple jobs to, put food on the table, to put ourselves in a situation where we're in right now. I feel like, yes, that's a success. That's a story that, I could share with other people that are struggling. Listen, if I could do it, you can do it. So, I look at myself as being successful in that aspect there. But as far as all of my goals or probably life aspirations, I feel like I still got a ways to go. And, once you climb one mountain, you want to take the challenge of climbing the next one. That's just how I am with things.
That makes sense. And thank you for sharing that. And considering this, you kind of talked a little bit about some challenges. And usually I ask the guests two questions that are polar opposites of each other. And since you kind of brought it up, I'll just kind of jump right into those two questions. What would you consider to be your most challenging experience that you've had? Why do you consider that to be your most challenging experience? And what was kind of the results and kind of outcome of that?
I would say my most challenging experience was going through my divorce. A lot of, when I look back at it now, the reason why it was so challenging, because a lot of it was unknown. I would say that's going through my divorce was the closest thing of going through losing, like, having a death to a close family member or a friend. Because what you had known for a period of time, or what you thought you were growing or creating as far as a life for you and your family, all of a sudden just falls apart and it's not there anymore. So having to pick up the pieces of that and sort of start all over, and figure out, there's things that my wife took care of, now I got to learn to take care of it, and learning to sort of take baby steps. And there was plenty of mistakes that were made along the way, but those mistakes helped me to grow from point A to point B. So I would say it was that part there, because when I first went through the divorce, money was tight. Where am I going to live? How am I going to afford to live at this place? How am I going to afford to do that? That was the biggest challenge. And then being able to sit back and find ways to overcome it, talk to people who've gone through divorces, that have gone through a divorce or go through tough times. How did they do it? Be able to pick their brain, and learning that, people that have been through a hard time and been able to come out on the other end, they're not afraid to share their experiences with you, whether it was good or bad, and being able to listen to some of those experiences helped along the way as well too.
That's right. Do you feel like you're capable of, do you feel like you're in a position at this point in time to kind of share that with others?
Yes, I definitely feel like that.
Okay.
I've had that experience talking with others currently and over the last 5 or 6 years, because a lot of times people see the finished product, they don't see what it took to get to where I'm at. So when we're having these conversations, they sort of have a hard time seeing it, and they just think that I'm just talking to them because of where I'm at today, and not understanding that where it took for me to get to where I'm at today.
Right. And that over a decade, that's quite a long time.
Right.
Probably something unforeseen, like you mentioned before, the unknowns. I would only imagine that it would probably produce some anxiety of some sort, because you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, there was a lot of anxiety. There was, anxiety, depression, frustration, moments that went through that. And that's, now that I'm on the other side of it, I understand that was all part of the growth process.
Yeah.
Of me learning how to grow as a person, learning how to get through adversity, understanding that, it's not the end of the world. You will make a mistake, but you can learn from those mistakes and make yourself a better person. And, when I graduated here last year from college, it took me almost 20 years from when I started college to get my degree. I came across, I don't know what I was listening to, but the person had said, delay doesn't mean denied. And that stuck with me. And that's sort of a message that I share with people. Just because your plans didn't work out today doesn't mean that they're not going to work out. They're just delayed for a moment here. You still got to go through the process. And eventually, once you start going through the process and you figure things out and you start doing things the right way, everything seems to fall into place for you at that point in time. So that's been a sort of a mantra of mine over the last couple of years, that delay doesn't mean denied.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us. So on the flip side of that, let's hear something that you would consider to be your most rewarding experience, and why do you consider that, and kind of what was the outcomes of that experience?
Well, I'll go back to me getting my college degree. As I said, I started school in 1998, and 21 years later, or 23 years later, I finally got my degree. And so what to me was rewarding about that is that I always knew that I could show my kids how to get to college or how to get to that level, but I never showed them how to graduate from that level. My siblings, I've got 3 other siblings, and they all got their degrees before I did. I got a bunch of cousins who, we're all first-generation Americans that have gotten their degrees before I did. And so, they've grown up around family members that got the degrees. But being able to show my kids that you could finish. Doesn't matter what you start, just finish what you start. And it's hard for me to sort of preach that message as a parent, as a head coach, of when you start, you want to make sure you get to the end and finish it. And so getting my degree was a big thing for me and a big accomplishment. And one of the things that I'm proud of, because it said delay doesn't mean deny, that I
Mm-hmm.
ended up finishing it. At some point in time, I finished the race. And, everybody runs a race at a different time and different speed, but the goal is to finish it.
That's awesome. Congratulations on getting your degree. That's
Thank
huge.
you. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Probably makes you feel really good and successful too, in that specific aspect.
Yes. And, anytime you can check off a box and a goal that you had set for yourself, that's a great feeling. And so, and that was even when I left school the first time. I promised my mom that eventually I would go back and get my degree. And, you know, it took me some time, but being able to fulfill that promise to my parents that meant a lot as well too.
Sure. And speaking of goals, what would you consider some goals that you have currently now, or what you plan on doing in the future?
Um, you know, personally, my goals personally right now is to finish the process here and buying a house. With my kids off in college, being able to put myself in a situation to, wherever they are, to travel, to see different parts of the country or maybe parts of the world with them, as they're starting to get older, and appreciating those opportunities that wasn't really available to us when they were a lot younger. Professionally, being the new athletic director here, I'm looking at trying to make upgrades in all facets, from facilities to, our equipment and uniforms, and to the quality of our play of our kids that are on the field or on the courts. So, and making sure I'm bringing in the best people possible to be able to help our kids get to where they want to get to, personally, and whatever activity that they're doing.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing your goals and dreams with us. I hope that they're able to be realized.
Yeah.
Um, Thinking about your AD position right now in Maine, um, how is it working in this new kind of structure with COVID restrictions, limitations, and now it's trying to ease up a little bit, but then it comes back? And what do you think about that?
Well, the first thing that you got to have in this time and age that we're living in is being flexible. And then also just knowing, control what you can control. If the goal is to be able to put things in place so the kids can have their activities, then that's what you need to focus on. I can't control the mask mandates. I don't like the mask mandates like most people. When we had this in the fall of 2020, I said in our parent meeting, I don't care what your opinion is. I don't care what your belief is. This is what we have to do so the kids can play. And I'm not here to debate you with it. If we're not going to follow the rules, the kids don't play, and that's it. And that's just been my philosophy, because I've had parents ask me, oh, what do you think about the mask? We should get rid of the mask. And I'm just saying, my opinion doesn't matter about the mask. My job is to make sure the kids are able to play. And so I just focus on the task that's at hand. And my number one goal is to make sure we can provide the best product for our kids, the best opportunities for our kids, and get our kids out there and let everything else take care of itself. Over time, mask is being lifted, but it could come back tomorrow. And if it comes back tomorrow, we just have to adjust and do what we have to do. I would give the kids a ton of credit, because the kids have been great with their flexibility. The stuff that the adults worried about, the kids just go on and play. They just want to be out there playing. They want to be out there with their friends. Some sports, the numbers have hurt because kids don't want to wear masks. But for the majority of sports, kids are playing, and the numbers across, even before this COVID situation, the numbers in sports were going down anyways because kids were becoming taking part in less team sports. So, but to see that these kids are having an opportunity to play and being out there having fun, that to me is the most important thing. And that's what my goal is as far as the athletic director goes.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. So to kind of wrap us up just a little bit, I wanted to ask 2 ending questions that I typically ask.
Okay.
One of them is, what have you learned about yourself? And it doesn't necessarily have to be during this session, but just in life in general. It could include this session. What have you learned about yourself? And what do you hope people learn from you or about you?
I think what I hope people learn from me and what I learned about myself, I think it's the same thing. What I've learned about myself over the last, 24, 25 years is that adversity makes you better, and whatever you're going through in life, it's just for a season. And, I look back at my divorce, I look back at, certain jobs that I might have had over the last 20 years. And it helped me to grow into the person that I am today. It helped me to understand, like I just said, controlling what I can control. Once I learned that I was in control of my effort and my attitude and how I looked at things and how I did things and how I treated people, I saw a turnaround in my life. And we get so caught up in being upset about the things that we can't control that we lose focus of the beauty that's around us. So even in this COVID situation that we've been dealing with for the last 2 years, a lot of people look at it as a problem. I look at it as an opportunity. And I've realized through my adversity, every time I was put in an adverse situation, it created an opportunity for me to be successful. I just had to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would just hope that if what people see in me as a person that no matter what the situation is, if I'm having a good day or a bad day, you're not going to be able to tell. I'm going to be able to work through it and be able to find a way to overcome it. Whatever obstacles are there, they're only there for a period of time because there's a way to get around those obstacles. But you just got to be able to put the work in it, and you got to be able to have an open mindset, because what you thought might have been the direction you need to go, that obstacle was there to tell you that you need to go to the left so you can come back to the center, or come back to the center. So, that's what I've learned in life, and that's what I try to instill in my children. And that's what I try to instill into my players, that when you get adversity on the field or in life, you got to look at it as a blessing. You got to look at it and be encouraged by that, because on the other end of adversity, there's great things. And everything that you wanted is right on that other side of adversity.
That's beautiful. And kind of like you said, you just see it through to the end, and that's where you get it.
Yes. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. No, so, that's me sort of in a nutshell. I'm not going to let too many things get me down, and if it gets me down in the moment, when I wake up the next morning, it's done, over with. You got to move on and figure out how to get through it.
Start fresh the next day.
That's it.
Yeah. Amen, brother.
All right.
Is there anything else that you'd like to share, or anything else that you might have any comments that I may not have asked about that you'd like to just chat about?
And I just think that, we have to learn to live in the moment, but we also have to know that time heals. So when you're going through an adverse situation, or you're going through some stuff with some people in your life, it takes time, and everything is going to happen when it's supposed to happen. And so once you learn to let go of some of those negative feelings or that you might have, you will realize that over time things come back to the center. And, and that to me, I think would be the biggest message I want to get out to people is, you got to keep going through, keep pushing through, and over time, things will work itself out when it's supposed to. We can't rush it. We would like to rush a lot of things, but when we rush it, we don't appreciate it as much as we do once you get to that other end of adversity. So,
yeah,
patience is a virtue.
Patience is a virtue. Okay. Well, thank you, Jon. I really appreciate you joining us today. Everyone, I'm grateful that you were able to watch this conversation with Jon and I. I hope that you were able to learn something from him about him and who he is. Hopefully, if you liked what you watched and participated in, leave some comments or some questions about Jon's life down below. And what we'll do is we'll see if we can get Jon back on the show, and we'll have him come and answer some of those questions for you. Is that all right with you, Jon?
Sounds great.
Perfect.
All right.
Well, thank you, everyone. We'll see you later.